Hello, campuses A through Z, schools A through Z, black pupils. We have black pupils, whites of eyes. And we know our founders, other things were communicated for our founders since we were kids. And how we know this, we had forgiveness for the people who have roles with identities, therefore names A through Z, including of locations names, and the difference between that. And this is how we are shared. All the countries fighting with each other in the news, they have shared positive, what they call unity together or positive, they have both definitions of war and of peace simultaneously. Collusions as a breaching method where schools A through Z are criminally foreign influenced everywhere the species body stands. From before religious messengers were born. The Old Testament and the Quran were written with consciousness that the differences between the people defending those books or the people countering them or the exceptions, they would congeal as collusions at campuses. America's republic for which we stand and its democracy and its campuses system and their conjunctions as nature's grounds, identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. We have been separated from its system by a system that was a breaching method that has replaced. Our founders communicated for us to blame a lot of things on the breaching method /S because there was rules with the breaching method and there were laws against anyone who was found out to be against the breaching method outside of context that were monitored by international companies. And the suburbs were designed already before America's founders were born. The scale and how they're gonna how everything was gonna unfold was designed by our founders before our founders were born. Slavery was entrenched in northern colonies and southern colonies, and now against everyone, sickly distinctly, because this breaching method singular it used how everyone had plural roles with itself and how everyone would leave itself out when they're blaming other things, others or selves, for what those roles caused and kept and keep are used to keep only fathomable. For example, the suburbs manifest the way they are. This is why and how it is critical because real science shows that the cities were only allowed to unfold. Even worse, the suburbs were designed to be a landscape theater that would only be capable of nature's demonstrations of the cause of it being an identity of relationship to itself. That is a negative cause to negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, including criminal insidious natures of positive treatments, and especially regarding where we are syntax nature, how we are syntax nature manifest. Also, people use words like manifest in the education has been tactically criminally foreign influence. So someone will jump, manifest destiny, or someone, in other words, or someone will use I believe it's Bob Woodward developed the phrase deep state. And now other people use it, but in other words, we're not getting to real predicate acts. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, and we have other communicate for our founders where they told us to blame the breaching method for things like slavery and roles with it, only allowed. Just like they had different roles with the worst parts of it. In other words, this breaching method knew it would force, trick, hurt, and persuade humanity to be systems tactically ulterior from the one that employed all differences, therefore all names, in demonstration of its own. The identity of hyper-relativity is grouped 5 ways as the extent of the identity of all of space/existence that we can discern. But wherever we have an extent of a subject this way, we can appreciate, in other words, inseparable from all things, even things made up, is its complete identity of relationship to itself and the only increasing value of it. Those three things, those three values are value as nature/nature as value, one way, and our value as nature/nature as value another way. The same reason there is an identity of hyper-simultaneous that is bigger than right to left will ever be. And it is bigger than left, conversely too. Its identity. It's part of the way it shows us. And then being grouped 3 ways distinctly from how 5, like times body, times complete identity as the identity of space/existence. We are the order of the finite, the smallest finite detail that we could grapple with, and or the order of its nature. In other words, and the active, what is active or grouped, we are this value active grouped, and we have the species volume, the species body of individual bodies. And see, we are a different species from the other species bodies, but they too have 2 eyes, quality aspects in nature, distinct from ourselves, but also non-distinct, and simultaneous with ourselves, for what is also further hyper-simultaneous, that is discernible. And English was revealed to teach this. There is a phenomenon, and there are ones being generated from it, for example, where people at the campuses I went to, who I never had conversations with them there, and some of them went out of their ways to make fake exceptions. And I caught them leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since, intercities, intercampuses, and interstates, in all sides of criminal and civil cases, and their roles with and as names next to news locations and communications locations. They've been sticking fake things in databases and speaking illusions tied to that, including as their roles increasingly with leaders of the kids and their roles with ones that were forced in the past, because there are distinct natures of organized crime, crimes, plural, that are tactically juxtaposed. And as the subject, /S, because as this one subject where we can be led by what is true always, not denying the slightest sequence shift. For example, this preaching method knew that we would not be, it maintains people incapable of affording discern what our founders, need us to discern, about how no one had free speech, everyone had to pretend other, and about how they used James Madison's plan, and how George Washington agreed to use James Madison's plan and to help those founders behind James Madison and his plan. Otherwise, there was no way. And see, we're supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. This would have revealed how our founders were fact, human nature enslaved, let alone our presidents. All exceptions in exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other, they come with demonstration /S of the same thing. Vaccine. There is a way to make hyper positives out of negatives. But this reveals at countries A through Z, suits and ties, counters, and exceptions. You guys came through. You guys were bred reliant upon criminal insidiousness natures of positive and negative treatments with bullying logic certain type of child abused, while the elderly were abused multi-front to keep other things, others, or selves blamed for what caused the worst negative value nature progressions, acts, and nations before any modern name was born. And through the founding of all modern nations, there are hyper-evidential proofs that there was already a breaching method entrenched. And the breaching method already knew that it could cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and need more and more needs and means to counter it, incapable of countering it properly without countering it as syntactic collusions with the breaching method. For example, when we have people, there are people dying in Palestine, and Zad, to pick a side. This is to say the human species by every side, and with Russia and Ukraine. Now, Russia and Ukraine, I saw this coming years before it. And because of their roles with people from Russia and Ukraine with the World Trade Center attack. Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, increasingly has roles with kids and adults who stuck fake things in databases before and after I was in grammar school. And they're lying about why people mention their names. And it makes it sound like the person knows them as an adult. A whole bunch of people from Harvard Hospital pretended with WFSB I had ties to a doctor as a kid. And they have wire crimes with the same house. And with police departments have falsified police reports with them since they were kids. That's why they had to pretend I had conversation with the police as a kid when I never did. Never went down to the police station ever as a kid and made a police report. In other words, nothing I forgot. They brought kids and adults that were criminally foreign influenced a whole bunch of ways, which fact treatment nature oriented. There are predicate acts that are facts, like sequence shifts. Predicate acts, falsified police reports, as collusions on off all sides of the criminal and civil cases, like in the Ninth Circuit Court the day of the World Trade Center attack. Names on all sides of that case were used by the ones forging and switching names intercities. Then they're using time. See, in other words, they're using time to pretend that, that's past. I've been asking every day since they put me in fake. They already used wire crimes and fake digital evidence. I caught them with a principal child offender with way worse than upskirt pictures he's in prison for. And I still didn't get a response for his confessions and the other names brought in. There's a Michael Emmett, who's one of the ones involved with also people with the name Riley, with the Board of Education, all along Route 175 and Route 3. These are increasingly people with whiting forensics too, with state police of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, Massachusetts, associated with the same house of wire crimes, and ones with this Ray Reynolds, Joe DeMoro, Ray Cololo, with wire crimes of Wethersfield Police, falsified police reports roles. Joe DeMoro and Heather Hansen and other boyfriends she had at the same time. It has something to do with their roles with the intelligence community and their roles with names next to campuses like Harvard Hospital, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, planting evidences, also having others plant the evidences for people. So when people try to counter the negatives that it causes in demonstrations of it, they blame other things, others themselves, for why people are using names properly. They're pretending people are using other names improperly. They have all kinds of collusions, and the difference of that use is roles with uses of words like privacy. They're using truths for lies. I was in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers the day of the attack. Leading up to that attack and since, there are cousins of Claudia Scalura and herself who are involved with child offenders, foreign and domestic, medical families at corners of streets too, planting fake ties to kids with foreign bodies, including overt criminal enterprises. Has something to do with their roles all along Valley Crest and Wethersfield. And I don't want to mess up the other street. I just messed it up today. But in other words, please get them on paper. One name and sequence. WFSB attached me to fake words with them. WTNH has been planting evidences with a whole bunch of people out of Harvard Hospital and the houses and businesses next to it have ties to each other, recorded between campuses, planting evidences, and with co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. And with mandated laws means you don't fake and change what you what people said. You don't value the FBI and CIA and other agencies brought into this in courts, switching and forging names, changing what's digitally recorded. You guys should fear God for what was confirmed on Facebook by Enzo Fienza regarding his roles with body dumping spots. Totally different ones in different times, increasing uses of it, and people that lived next to him. And like a Sal Saviello involved with my 4th grade teacher and my 5th grade teacher and my 6th grade teacher class, and teachers from other classes where they're putting fake ties between kids, and with retired mayors. And there was a 6th grade teacher, Mr. Bernstein, who has at least 2 kids. David, at least 3 kids. I don't know anything about them. I barely knew them when I was a kid, and it had something to do with that. It has something to do with people increasingly tied to body dumping spots. Like a Sal Saviello has roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, with the houses near him on 2 Route Highway, which runs into the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. And that area there, too, there are people with the name DeMoro. And there's a Chet Casper. There's a guy, a Dr. Dingleberry or a Dr. Dewberry, and they have they forging names, switching names, foreign and domestic doctors at Hartford Hospital's Institute of Living. They have mental evaluation of people when they have to raise their voice, where and how the overt criminal enterprises and other mixed with them get involved with guns and violence. And we want to deal with this without violence. This is also the interbranch switching and forging names as collusions. You get them on paper, one name in sequence. These are remote uses of Judge Napolitano's Facebook page before and after he was with Fox Connecticut News. They have wire crime acts and methods, also with the names next to Fox Connecticut News, like Domain and Mendez, all along conjunctions to Route 3. And the Berlin Turnpike are people involved with their teachers, involved with themselves. I never had a class with Eric Mendez. He's involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, also with his brother. And see, this is a method that keeps the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, in a whole bunch of different countries with the names we have to start with. Involved also with hyper-foreign. That has nature itself demonstrating this to us. Like the breaching method itself as a scientific value. And it is being and has been replaced as a scientific value associated with the communications of James Madison and of the founders behind him. So a whole bunch of people from Hartford Hospital planted evidences on my street years ago because they have roles. A whole bunch of people with UConn, too, are involved with this, with Violet. A Mark Violet and a Justin Kolbinskis have something to do with a whole bunch of Koreans, people from Germany, people from Italy, all along Route 175 and conjunctions to it. They've been planting evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And with a Joshua Julian on the principal sex offenders page of his Facebook page of his school, also with some KKK black themed and Confederate flag themed people that know my names, but I don't even know their name. And their roles with corners of streets near me, planting evidences with a Dillon family and a guy who said he was his partner to a speech class I had in high school. When I had to repeat my senior year for the other speech class teacher, I never had a personal conversation with her or the other one. They're putting fake things in databases. Has something to do also all along Route 175 and conjunctions to it. People were planting evidence, and these are people involved with Washington, D.C., and former director of the FBI, Robert Lusk, in his defendant capacity since before that, and his co-defendants, various natures of federal criminals and ones tied to them before they were caught, who had timed collusions at campuses, at corners of buildings. They will make it. Then they pretend people lie when they say they never had conversations with people. They don't even know people. Like this Joshua Julian, he's been planting evidences with prosecutors and judges. There's a prosecutor named Salisbury. There's a whole bunch of them tied to, I believe, as a Brian Silver, and they have their family members involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. And a Leahy family that faked conversations with me, forged conversations with me with other doctors too, foreign and domestic. You have a whole bunch of sick people and judges and prosecutors personally with their family members with these people involved with drugs and medicines crimes and uses of Harper Hospital. A whole bunch of names of Harper Hospital have rolls of wire crimes on my street, intercities, and with names next to other campuses. Has something to do also as a house involved with extended family members like Scalora with World Trade Center predicate acts and names with Dan Keene. Dan Keene and his mother and family have roles with World Trade Center predicate acts with Enzo Pienza and others on off the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices. And I know this because I asked them nicely for a response, and they wouldn't help me either. In other words, they're preventing writing so they can stick more fake things. These are people with all natures of all sides of cases, counters to bad things that are collusions with them, like Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook campuses has more people with the name O'Brien as one of the ones involved with wire crimes with the different houses with the Wethersfield police and names in my area that I don't even know. And this is how they play games. People will speak using others' names as fakes while pretending others simultaneously, still since founding, because they are a certain type of victim / hyper victim. Forgiveness is to force them on paper, one name in sequence, have them say sorry to Judge Napolitano, and see those readings of statutes associated with the Wethersfield police chief's lawyer, a Bayard, I believe, and her roles with Russians, with Americans. There are Russians intercities involved with Americans with identity theft, fraud, slanders. And what are they doing with the police state, the fire departments? The fire departments have investigators that have been planting evidences and fake motivations on all sides of my house and other people's houses. And so they're leaking too, because now we're going to go more and more into detail about this, because you can't pick one name in sequence. You for the coward courts or for the coward police departments. Well, a whole bunch of police departments involved with the same house /S with wire crimes. You fear God. Make sure you tell Judge Napolitano and say sorry to him. Fix the fake news, WFSB. Fix it fast. And Fox Connecticut News. Let's go. Fix the fake news. And WTNH, please respond. Get on paper, because there are people involved pretending they had conversations with me too on Church Street in Wethersfield, as a whole bunch of people with Harper Hospital involved with medical corruption, and people with the intelligence community that I never had classes with. And in other words, they try to make fake exceptions too, like with a summer school class, and like with their narratives in the background with the motivations for it. Whole bunch of people with a Mr. Neville has something to do all along Route 3. In that apartment building he reportedly lived at. It has something to do increasingly with people who have been planting evidences with state polices, families, and ones with foreign countries. There was even a Kuwaiti general involved in the family members of deans and principals further with child abuses, and as named simultaneously who made uses of elderly programs and locations. Relative to where and how there are means to answer how everyone stays fake and pretending other, or that body is sensed, including if that body is everyone, Black pupils, and including if it's any grouping of countries, because it came through. It's entertaining states, locations, areas, and states, criminally foreign influence, and tactically delusions, raw fact treatment, nature, quality aspects of nature, styles pretending they believe voting or means what it doesn't. Follow mandated law and everyone, evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere come. Get the Constitution on the bridge. Stop. Before you fix it, show how it was tactically wrong. Read properly what you hear. Watch when because you guys have music playing and you're speaking other than our founders communicated about why and how. Really, they had to force the Constitutional Convention. They had to force the Declaration of Independence. That's why and how slavery was left entrenched in northern colonies, southern colonies. They had not possession over themselves. Names A through Z. And unity. Any nature of unity is a criminal in C. Says nature of unity is still. You guys are the Constitution of bridge and you're screening it for the breaching method. And you're sensing that as styles. You guys came through breach schools, human species body of volume. Remember where the species body stands, even in outer space. Oh, peace, Maxine. Disbelief.